Welcoming to the stage a driver that's almost completed his media day obligations, driver of the M&M's Toyota, of course, from Joe Gibbs Racing, and a past champion, Kyle Busch. Kyle, thanks for making time today. We appreciate you being here.
What's the word of the day?
Enhancements. You can do a lot with that.
I'm excited.
That was the word of yesterday.
Okay.
Yeah. So, all right, we're going to directly open the floor up here for questions. So raise your hands, and we'll try to get to you as fast as you can. Let's go with Jordan over here.
Jordan Bianchi, SBNation.com. Kyle, how involved were you in the decision, or how much input did you have in this decision, the changes that were announced yesterday?
Drivers' Council had a little bit of say in all of that. Obviously, it was a huge industry-wide. All the stakeholders were involved in everything. So I'm sure you guys have heard that many a times, and it's the truth, you know. So being a part of the council last year, you know, certainly knowing a little bit about some of the stuff, but not a whole lot about the developments and how they were kind of coming together. I think late December and January, when most of the decisions were finally being made, but some of the ideas that were shared earlier on were last year's councils as well.
All right, back to the back, Tom Jensen.
Hi, Kyle. Tom Jensen, FoxSports.com. I was just wondering if you could share with us what your experiences were at the Race of Champions.
Yeah, the Race of Champions was really fun. It was unique, and having the opportunity to go down there to Miami and race against all the other champions of the world, let's say, with Formula One and IndyCar and Rally and stuff like that. So to meet all those guys and to spend time with them in the locker room, it was a real locker room setting for us, was neat, and to kind of get the camaraderie going between everybody and the friendly type relationships that were going on. But then knowing that when you got out on the racetrack, all they wanted to do was cut your throat. So you know, it was fun because you got into all these different vehicles at different times. The tires were cold, the brakes were cold, the tires may have been hot. They're putting different fans in the cars to ride with you. It could be a 120-pound girl, or it could be a 250-pound guy. You just didn't know what was coming next, you know. So all your notes that you're making with all the different vehicles and stuff of the braking zones and the different things that you were doing on the course would certainly change with you know, changing people out in the seat next to you.
Kurt said you may or may have not accidentally put a car in reverse.
Yeah, I did. I did. I was messing around with the shift lever. I was waiting for Vettel. It was right before the final race of the Nations Cup, and you know, I had been driven those things only a couple times in the whole time that I had been there, and I was just kept pushing forward on the lever. Well, there's a little flip lever right underneath the top of the shifter that if you push forward on that and you push forward on the shifter, it goes from neutral to reverse. So I forgot about that little flip lever, because I was just making sure I was in neutral, and when I let out the clutch, it was in reverse, so got a little shot backwards.
Right,
no harm, no foul.
Okay.
I didn't run over anybody. Scott Speed ran over somebody, almost.
All right, let's go right here, please, to Jenna.
Two questions. Are you still on the driver council?
Yeah, somehow I got voted back in.
Oh, congratulations.
Thanks.
And we talked to Kenseth. We've heard from Kenseth already on Carl's retirement. Just how did you take that, and what did you make of that?
Yeah, it was certainly, I think, a shock to the entire industry, but also to us as a team at Joe Gibbs Racing. It was a shock to me. It was something that I didn't expect to see happen. You know, I know that Carl ran really, really hard, really, really strong there at the end of the year, and obviously was probably the car to beat there at Homestead. He was the best car all weekend long, was the fastest guy, and, you know, due to unforeseen circumstances there towards the end of the race, just, you know, got eliminated that way. But he was the class of the field there at Homestead and had a shot to win the championship, and then all of a sudden just decides he doesn't want to do it anymore, you know. So that's kind of a shock to everyone, I would presume. But, you know, it's his own decision to make, and you got to give it to a guy when he says he's had enough and he's done, and he walks away. And if that continues to hold true, then, you know, more power to him. But if there's something else waiting in the wings, we all got to wait and find out.
Let's go back to Brant, and then we'll go over to Lewis.
Coming off a strong year such as JGR had last year with a four-driver veteran lineup, how much do you think the team's going to be affected in the near term, taking Carl out of the equation and putting a newcomer in?
I think it's going to hurt the overall team a little bit, but if you look at us individually, I don't think it's necessarily going to hurt, you know, the 18 car or the 11 car or the 20 car. And I mean that by, our overall stock last year was all the JGR cars were up front each and every week, and I don't know what our average finish was as a company. Let's just say it was 5. And Hendrick Motorsports' average finish as a company was 8 because they had one of their guys kind of struggle sometimes. This year I would say that our average finish of a 5 isn't going to be there. We're going to have a little bit of struggle from Suarez, but it's going to be nothing but a learning experience for him being a rookie and coming in and experience these Cup cars with the less downforce and the more horsepower and stuff like that he has to get accustomed to. So, for us other 3, I would presume our average finish would still stay at a 5 if you cut out the 19 car.
I will go over here to Lewis, and then we'll get to Chris and maybe work in a couple of more questions.
Yeah, Louis Frank of Reuters. Speaking of the Race of Champions, Kurt said he was amazed that the Europeans like Coulthard could still go fast after partying so hard. We know you're fast. Can you party as hard as the Europeans? So.
No way. I've been fighting a sinus infection since I got down there, so I still have it right now if you can't tell. But it was not for me to be partying this weekend. No, I tried to get as much rest as I could because I knew every morning I was going to be up at 8 o'clock no matter what, with little Brexton ready to go. So he was down there with us as well too. So I heard some of the stories those guys from Johnson told me about years past. Those guys certainly know how to run hard, and so I was wanting to hang out with them a little bit, and we did on. Was it Saturday night? I think we all had a little get-together dinner type thing. I was out by 11. My eyes were closing themselves. So, I was definitely not going to hang.
Chris?
ChrisKnightKitchens.com. Kyle, can I shift gears for a second and talk about KBM? I feel like that you guys have a pretty good organization for 2017 with all the additions of drivers and crew chiefs and whatnot. Just looking to get your analysis on that and then your Xfinity schedule for this year.
Yeah, I would certainly like to think that, KBM is slated for success this year. I wouldn't have done the things or have the things that we have if I didn't think so. We got Christopher Bell coming back with Rudy Fugle for a full-time ride and going after the championship. He was close last year. He made the Final Four at Homestead, so that was really good. Rudy obviously won it as an owner's champion with William Byron, unfortunately not being eligible at Homestead. And then we've got Noah Gragson, who could be the next William Byron. We don't know. That comes out of K&N and lights the world on fire in our trucks and does a really good job. So he'll be a force to be reckoned with, I'm sure. And then the 51 truck filled out with my 5 races and Harrison Burton, Todd Gilliland, and Myatt Snyder. So those young guys are certainly wet behind the ears, don't have a whole lot of experience. Myatt is the only one old enough to run the bigger tracks that I'm not going to be in, so we got to put him in Daytona and some of the other bigger places. Todd and Harrison, being the younger guys, have to run the short tracks, and we'll try to get them enough experience in order to get them something to look forward to for the following season, and maybe more of a more races for them in the following year.
All right, let's go over to George, and then we'll get to Jenna, and that'll put the wrap on it.
Xfinity, I don't know what my Xfinity races are. If they're not announced, I don't know what they are. When they get announced, I'll find out.
Kyle, over here to your right, George Diaz with the Orlando Sentinel. Can you, in your mind, define the terms teammates for in NASCAR? Because obviously it's a different dynamic than any other ball and stick sports, because sometimes you're working together and sometimes you're not necessarily doing that. So just kind of in your mind, just kind of explain the concept.
Yeah, I guess the concept is, we're teammates when we're all in behind closed doors, working together, communicating with each other about our cars, our equipment, and making all of our stuff better, making ourselves better, trying to communicate and help each other out and to elevate our expectations as well as our abilities in being able to go out there and produce results as a team. That's what we do for teammates, for Joe Gibbs. And then when you're out on the racetrack, your teammates collectively with Joe Gibbs Racing drivers, but in all honesty, you're out there competing as you would against everybody being separate. I think we found that out last year at Richmond, and maybe Carl still felt bad enough that's why he wanted to retire. He didn't want to go through that anymore. But I guess he gets to quit without me paying him back. So disappointed in that aspect. But no, love you, Carl. Seriously, those are the sorts of things that you have to not look forward to as being teammates with someone. Is you would think that you raise someone a little bit differently or expect a little bit different, and yet those sorts of things can happen while you're still teammates.
All right, let's wrap up this session. We'll go back to Jenna.
The day that Carl and Daniel's swap was announced, there was some joke that coach had said, oh yeah, Daniel, just go to your teammates anytime you need anything, and Daniel might have gone to you one too many times or something like that. Is he overly eager? I mean, what's it like to work with him?
He is. He's very eager, that's for sure. He definitely was either told by Coach or Steve D'Souza or both that, hey, you better go use the resources as much as you can, and so go use Kyle, because we were teammates in the Xfinity Series. So his rookie season in Xfinity, he came to me every single Thursday. I mean, I pretty much knew it was set on the calendar, Daniel Suarez phone call, 3 o'clock. You know, and we would talk about that weekend's racetrack and about what to do and what to expect and the this and the that and practice and tire wear and everything else. And then during our practice breaks that we would have with Xfinity, if I didn't have to go back to a Cup car, he'd come over to my hauler and he'd be right there, you know. So he wore me out, that's for sure. It was a good thing. It wasn't a bad thing. But then we started getting to the racetracks for the second time, and I was like, no. You can't do this again. You already were there once. I already gave you everything I knew the first time, so no more. And I think that's what he was alluding to, where I told him he's got to cut it back a little bit. But this past year, you know, he came to me a couple times, and I says, hey, you don't use me as much as you used to. Wow, you told me not to. And I says, no, I didn't say that you couldn't. I just said, you know, use me sparingly. Like once every 5 weeks is okay. So, you know, now that he has me and Matt and Denny and Martin to go to, I would be once every 5 weeks again. So I'm like, that works. It's good. You know, Jones the same way. You know, maybe we can even just get him on the same call and I can do 2 at once. Sounds pretty good.
All right, it was worth being here all day long to hear Kyle Busch do Daniel Suarez. Kyle, thanks a lot, man. We appreciate it. Thanks for being here.
No problem, man.